YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now this is a part 2 to the previous video, which is this one. Moon Pyramid and Huge Mining Structures Part 1. This is Part 2. We're looking at the same image and I'm going to be showing you a lot of the other things in the area. Now some of these are massive, but some of them are quite a long way off, 50, 100 miles away. Some of these structures are absolutely enormous. And I have spoken to actually Chris from Mars Anomalies Beyond channel about this. We were chatting about it just the other day, and he may be doing a part 3, kind of a part 3 to this couple of videos that I've done, and show you some of the things that he's found. Now it would be really cool actually to find out, to see if he finds the same things or if he finds other things. He's got a very good eye for this sort of thing, so I'd imagine he would probably find even more, because I do tend to mainly concentrate on the largest and most obvious structures, and the way I work, I try and concentrate on those, but often other people will see it. There are hundreds of structures in this area, on this part of the moon, and this is the image again. This is the same one as before, obviously. It's AS-17, Apollo 17, magazine 151, image 23186. So we're going back over the same image. Here it is, and we've got a nice view of the horizon there, so we've got good orientation. And we're looking across the surface of the moon, so we can see things sticking up, structures sticking up, which is what we're after. Looking straight down on the moon, as I always say, looking straight down on the moon's surface is very difficult to make out what you're looking at, and you get a lot of optical illusion effects where the shadows kind of play tricks with your eyes and stuff. So if you look across the moon, you can see things sticking up with a bit more assurance, and it's more obvious what you're looking at. Okay, now do bear with me because there's a lot of stuff here. It will be interesting to see whether Chris's analysis comes up with the same kind of stuff. I imagine it would be very similar. He uses slightly different techniques. We all have our own slightly different way of doing things. I don't use Photoshop. I think Chris does, but this is kind of just a very simple version of Photoshop, and I like it because it's very quick and less fussy, and there's lots of key commands you can do with the keyboard, which is faster. So let's crack on with it. So I've got here an anomaly map that I've done, and some of these may well be intelligent structures, some of them may not be. I'm not saying they all are, but a lot of them do look very odd indeed. And this is the area over here on the lower right that I showed you in the previous video, where we have this structure here which looks like a pyramid type thing, just here, and we got this really odd thing here which looked like some kind of mining structure. Now I haven't really enhanced this image much. It's been grayscaled and it's been enlarged, and I've added contrast, and the best thing to do actually is really add quite a lot of contrast. I'm going to add some more now just to help push these things out a little bit more. Now there's something weird here going on, sticking up here. I don't know what it is. Now the problem is with a lot of these structures, you don't really see any proper shape to them until you actually really darken the image up. So I'm just going to give you a basic idea where to look. So you can download the image. There will be a link to the main image here in the description. So you can download this, and what you can do is you can download it and have a look for yourself. I do advise you blur the image very slightly before you add contrast, because it will break up quite a lot if you add lots of contrast like I've done here, because the image will start to crack up as JPEGs do. And if you do save the image, save it as a ping or a bitmap or TIFF, so you can save your progress. Okay, if you save it as a JPEG, it'll probably downgrade each time you save it. So, but there's loads of stuff in here. I mean, just looking at this here now, I've just spotted that sticking up there. What the hell is that? You know, a lot of these images are quite good quality. The actual quality of the images is pretty high, and they're saved at 300 pixels per inch, which gives you good detail. And I keep finding more stuff in here. There was something over here sticking up. Now, what I will do is I'll take clips of all these and put them in at the end as well, but in a minute I will show you a more enhanced version of this image. There's a thing sticking up here, if you can see that, with a sort of dark line coming down there. See that sticking up? That is sticking up. It's not just a crater. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea where to look. This was really clear, this one. And you've got this large crater here, which looks pretty normal. And then you have a very dark looking box-shaped structure sticking right up there from this smaller crater that's on the edge of this one. So that was really cool. That was quite clear. Now, this is a long way off, so you're not going to see these things in enormous detail, but what you can see are basic shapes like cube shapes and rectangular shapes and pyramidal shapes as well. Okay, there is one here as well. This is quite small, or, well, it's a long way away. If we zoom out, that, I mean, we're probably around 50 miles above the surface of the moon. This is Apollo 17, of course, and we're looking across. This is probably another 40 or 50 miles away from us as well. So this may look small, but it's just a long way off. You've got what looks like a square structure here with a sort of dome thing in it there. Okay. Now, there's loads of other things in these, but you can only work with the resolution of the image. Now, what I mean is, you've got to concentrate on the larger things, because if you look at all the smaller things, that they just kind of blend in with the pixels. You've got, when you go right in close, you've got this kind of digital noise, which is where the pixels have been enhanced, and some of the brighter ones are kind of clashing with the darker ones, and you get this kind of broken up effect. It just looks like brickwork. Try and avoid going in too close, because a lot of these things are a long way off, and you're starting to see the image break up. But what it does do, it gives you good shadows. Like here, we got something here sticking up as well. That's interesting, and it's got some kind of square structure in the middle of it as well. So that one was there, near the center. There's this huge thing up here, which looks a bit like a bridge. Now, I'm not saying it is a bridge. It looks kind of like a crater here, but with some kind of weird structure over the back of it. You've got this long thing here coming right over, okay? And the crater kind of comes around like that, I think. Now, whether that is actually a bridge or not, I don't know. It's too far away to tell, really. Let's go dark again. So I'm just going to quickly show you these, and then I'm going to go in and show you the darker image. Now, I've really enlarged this a lot, and I saved it as a bitmap, and the bitmap's like 0.5 gigabyte. It's absolutely huge. There's loads of weird structures here sticking up here. Now, a lot of them are too vague to actually make out until you add more contrast. There was this weird thing here. I just thought this was an odd structure or shape in itself. It has some sort of weird symmetry to it, and I don't know whether that's intelligent or not, but it was interesting either way. There's also, now here we are, here's the big one. Up here we have, now we're right up near the top of the image, so this is even further away. This is probably up to about 80 or 100 miles away, don't know. If that's about 40 or 50, that's probably double the distance again. So yeah, it's probably about 100 miles. And we have this thing sticking up. What the hell is this? Whatever it is, it's very bright. You've got the base of it here, and a big kind of thing sticking up like that, okay? What the hell is it? I mean, if that's as far away as I think it is, that is absolutely miles and miles long. I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's very, very big indeed. Now, this is only a basic enhancement, and it shows up already, so there's something there. Also here, there's a really dark structure here, and something sticking up here. Now, some of these may actually just be kind of mountainous ridges that are sticking up, and because they're a long way off, they look a bit squared off because of the pixelation. You do have to bear that in mind. This is why I try and always concentrate on the really large stuff. Like this. Now, I don't know if you can make this out, but you've got almost a straight edge here, and there's a shadow coming up here. Let's do that again. Got an object there, got an edge to it here, and then it comes down like this. Very strange. That looks better when you darken it, as they all do. There's something weird going on here. Can't really make it out. Not really sure about that. There is a rectangular structure here, just there. Can you see it? There's the base, and there's the top, side, and the other side. Well, it's more square than rectangular, I would say. There's loads of these things, but you're pushing the image, and the problem is that when you get the image break up, it starts to really play tricks with your eyes. So you've got this weird dome-shaped thing here with some kind of squarish looking parts to it. What's that about? You can see it sticking out there, just like that. I'll come back to that in a minute. And there's this over here, which was a whole bunch of structures. Now, this is a bit blurry, but you can actually see something sticking up here, like a double structure, like that. You can see the shadows here coming around. And you've got a rectangular structure here, a huge bloody thing, with another structure in front of it, coming down like this. This comes round, comes out like this. You've got that one there, which I just showed you, which is kind of like that. They're all over the place. Some are clearer than others. So that was about it, really. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up the more enhanced image. Oh, there was this sort of thing. This is something that Chris spotted, I think, which looks like some kind of weird structure sticking up. That's definitely sticking up. Now, that may look small. It is small compared to some of the other things, but it's, in reality, it's huge. And it's got like a ridge there, and then it comes down like this. So that is weird. And that's just above the area I showed in part 1, which is where I showed you this thing, which looks like a weird kind of tube structure coming around like that. And you've got this box or square, odd-shaped structure sticking up with another kind of arm or tube-like structure there. And you've got I won't go into that because you can see part 1. Here's the pyramid thing, which I showed you before, which sticks right up here on the edge of this crater. And there's like a T-shaped structure behind it here. There's the T. Okay, just there. That's odd. That doesn't look natural at all. So, and there's the little cube-shaped building here as well, in the crater, right there. You can even see the base to it. You've got like a reflection here with the dark shadow there sticking up. Whether it's actually cube-shaped or that shape, I can't really tell exactly. It's a bit fuzzy. But there's loads of weird stuff in here, but most of it is too broken up and dark to see. And when if you push the contrast really hard, it will break up even more. So that's basically where everything is. Now, let me show you again. You can take a screenshot of this, if you like, and that will tell you where to look. That just gives you a basic map of what parts I've found things. But of course, you may find loads of other stuff. But do be aware that the further away the things are, the less you're going to see in detail. You've got to go for the big sort of stuff closer to the bottom of the image, like we've got here and over here, because it's nearer, you're going to see more. So I'm just going to load up the other version of this image, which has got more enhancements done to it. Right, here we are. Here's the more enhanced version. Now, what I've done is I've obviously this has been grayscaled, and I put a blue filter on it. Now, what the blue does, it helps you see things slightly better, I think, especially if you're a little bit colorblind. And it helps you see the shapes, and it's a bit easier on the eyes. Now, I'm just going to go over those things that we looked at before again, and possibly add a bit more contrast in here. Now, I will take clips of some of these things and put them at the end of the video, like I always do, so you can see the close-ups of a lot of these things. But it's hard to see some of these things if you get too close. You've got to kind of sit back a little bit. Here's that thing on the left in the crater that's sticking up. And you can see it pretty well. It kind of comes up like that. It's large and sticks right out of the crater. There's the bottom edge and the edge of the crater there. There's something sticking up here as well. And it's got this almost perfect straight line going right down the middle of it, just there, and it kind of goes like that at the bottom. Here's the top up there, and there's some sort of edge part there coming down. That is insane. I'm definitely going to do some more enhancements on that, because that looks really interesting. Because if it shows up without you really doing much to the image, then it's obviously there. If you really have to push the image really hard to see it, then it may not be there, or it may just be a bit of an optical illusion. You've got to be careful with these things, because when you start adding loads and loads of contrast, things start to distort, and you often end up looking at the distortion rather than what's really in the image. So you've always got to constantly refer to the original and see if it's really there. There is this double structure in this crater. Let's go a bit darker here. I'll just take a second. There we are. You can see it now. That's really pushed it out. You've got the crater coming round, and you've got like two big structures sticking up and a kind of join down the middle. Don't you really, you can make that out. See that? It's got a top to it there and a top to it there. It's going a bit closer. Let's take that off. Now you've seen the shape, you can work it out. It's got like a square part to it here. That's coming up there, that's coming up there. This kind of comes up like that. It's almost like a house. It's not a house, obviously, it's way too big. This is probably a mile across, this crater, if not bigger. That's like a double structure. That's really interesting. It doesn't look just like the edge of the crater. Now, some of these craters are quite odd. Some of them are elliptical shapes, some of them are odd hexagon shapes, some of them are even square looking. And I'm sure some of them aren't real, or as in natural. I'm sure some of them are partly, at least, artificial, and they have artificial structures in them often. Now, where is that other thing? Up here. Let's go to that big thing up here. Now, this is much darker now, so you can really see the shapes. I've really pushed the darkness down a bit. And you've got that huge thing sticking up. Now, this may also be natural, but why would there be a big structure sticking out and above the crater? It kind of comes up like that. It seems to have a line there and a kind of corner to it, almost like a big kind of rectangular thing with kind of, it's almost like a tower block. But why would there be a massive block like that in a crater? Now, that could be an optical illusion, at least partly. It's a long way off. That is, like I said, about 100 miles away, possibly 80. But then you've got that other thing that's behind it here, which completely sticks out like a sore thumb. It's very bright. And it's so bright, in fact, there's a reflection below it here. You can see this reflection. The surface of the moon is covered in kind of glass, a glassy-like substance, which is quite reflective. And you often get reflections. It almost shimmers like water in some areas. And there's also ice on the moon, as they have announced recently, although we have known that for a long time. So that was an interesting structure. I can't really make out what it is, but whatever it is, it's absolutely massive. So more clips of these coming up in a minute. Now, there was some other stuff over this side. There's so much in this image. I mean, I'm trying to keep this short and succinct, but I really could go on for a whole hour talking about this image, which I'm not going to do. This one's kind of looking odd now. What the hell's that sticking up there? You've got kind of something interesting going on there as well. That is weird. Especially this angle. You can see that angle there. That doesn't look entirely natural. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these structures may be very old indeed, millions or even billions of years old, and may be heavily, heavily damaged and eroded and smashed up. As many of the things on Mars are. A lot of the things that we're looking at on Mars are incredibly old, and may have been destroyed millions of years ago. Here's the crater that I showed in part one. This is, you can see it better now. It's a bit darker. I'm going to brighten it a bit as well. Let's go a bit brighter. That takes a second. There we are. And you can really see that object here a lot more clearly now, sticking up. Yeah, so there we are. I think I'm probably going to call it a day now, really, because I'm just going to be skirting around some of these images. These structures are all over the place. It's really hard to get across how many there are. I mean, every time I look at this image, I'm seeing more and more upright structures. Now, that's probably just a normal crater. There's loads and loads. This one's really quite clear. I mean, it's such a dark object sticking up, and a lot of these structures are not bright. Some of them are really bright, like we've got up here. What the hell's that? Is that something sticking up there? Like like a dome or something? Or is it sticking up from here? I mean, you start having to double think everything. So there we are. I'm going to take some clips of some of these things and show you in a minute. Especially this thing sticking up. I mean, you can see that thing sticking up there. What the hell is that? That is insane. I mean, that must be a mile high or something. Some of these things are absolutely huge. So there we are. That double structure was pretty crazy, I thought. This thing here with a join in the middle. What on earth is that? That is insane. So there we are. Clips coming up in a minute. I will pass you over to Chris at Mars Anomalies Beyond channel for part 3. This will be an interesting experiment because I'm sure he's going to find even more. I mean, this is absolutely insane, this image, and he's going to find so much in here. I'm leaving some of it for him to do. I could go on and on about some of the other structures here, but I'm going to leave some of it for Chris. Because I really want to see what he can pull out, because he's got a really good technique that pulls out some details, which in some ways is clearer than the techniques I use, and I'll be interested to see that. So that's going to be cool. So keep an eye open for his video, which I think will be in a few days' time. I don't know when exactly. There will be a link to when he's done his video. I'll put a link to it at the end of this one and in the description as well, so you can see the part 3 to this video on his channel. Okay, so a bit of a cooperation kind of thing going on there. There's part 1. Check out part 1. Do come along if you haven't joined up already. Do come along to ArtAlienTV Mars magazine. You get the free app here, which is not going to harm your device. So no adverts and no BS on here, and loads and loads of free software and free stuff that you can download as well. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I will hand you over to Chris Moroney from Mars Anomalies to do part 3. Please subscribe and share on social media if you can. I will see you soon.